All right. So we talk about static overload, right? An array. So first, I want you to look at what statics. Okay. So what's statics?
I got some paper towels.
Okay. That's fine. I'll get more plates. I'll go get.
I got you.
We can start. You guys can start. You have to wait for me. You know you could have just had to get people.
Yeah.
Then have to tear that.
Actually, I don't need a plate. You know, I'll just.
So we're eating on this. This is a plate.
Whatever you say, plate less. I think you need to finish on now.
As long as you
Let's go change the story. You share that.
Okay, someone keep a lookout. Okay, I got you. Okay, all right, go. Change everybody's though, you know, so nobody comes. Oh shit! He's streaming. Oh, he's streaming. He's streaming. Got you. Yo, he's probably listening to us too.
Shay, what are you doing up there? What are you doing on the professor's computer?
Come on, Shay.
My grade's gonna be the same, so it's not gonna be.
I made step to another professor's chair.
You changed that midterm grade to 100.
It's not even in the room.
Who said that?
So we are sharing the.
Oh, what's up, guys? What are we?
One cup for
See, now you can tell them.
Everybody
Shay,
you share them.
you should. No, cut them. No. Oh yeah. See, no, look, I'll show you.
Cut them all on the bottom.
No, you
Here.
cut it
She wants to
right there, right?
Yeah, you get a
Then you have a little cup here.
Thank you.
Then you can cut the top off of this one, have a little thing, and tape it to the bottom.
I feel like that's a lot of work. Just
No,
to
this is a
get
good
it
idea. Look,
Whoa.
cut it from the center, and you can use it like this.
Oh yeah.
Like
That's
right
good.
now,
That's
we're
good.
Okay, let's do it.
Guys, we could just ask the professor to get cups as well, you know, like, you know,
There's a couple bottles that we can rip the bottom off, put in the trash.
you guys, when the professor comes back, say, Professor, we need to get cups now as well. Just make sure we get them.
Maybe we have some recycling
In the
cups.
meantime, change all of your midterm
Yo,
grades.
don't forget to sign up, okay?
One to one.
Don't forget to sign up, okay?
Ahmed,
Shay, I got you. Okay, so
I'm not gonna sign up.
I'll explain it to you after I have some pizza. I'm kind of hungry.
Huh?
No, Ali's not here. Ali's not here.
For me too.
No, what? No, Ali. The third person has to be there. The third
Yeah, I
person.
haven't
Make you all sign up.
I haven't used it, so.
You get free $5 and I get one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they invest it for you. Yeah, and you don't even lose any money. It's only game, but the thing is, it's not fast. So you're always gonna be gaining money, but it's like a long-term investment.
So after a month, maybe $6.
No, not. So after 6 months, I have 75 cents. So, but I only put $5 because I didn't know, you know. I didn't know how good the app was, and so.
If you put like $1,000.
Oh, look, I'll show you. So with my $5 right now, right, so the potential in 40 years it's gonna be that. But 40 years though, okay? Like that's a long term, you know. And then like 30, and then you can just keep going down. See?
What about
Up to $6, you know. Like $6 now, and then just, you know. And that's the medium curve. There could be a little one or a bigger one.
Because he wants
So there's not losing.
You're not the only one
So
who
it's,
wants pizza.
yeah, so it's not losing. It's all up. So yeah, we.
So for the pizza, you have to stand in line with your favorite players. Everyone in line like that.
You don't want
Nah, just kidding. You can have a seat.
Could have been back from a car a long time ago.
What? Oh yeah.
Yeah, go and use it.
5 cents.
The professor is such a good person, man. I really like him a lot, you know. I think he's really smart. What is this? Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, like on a student teacher like intellectual level. You know?
I don't think he's even recording.
Is he? I don't
It
know.
says stop
hello,
streaming, so-
hello. But it also says start.
Yeah, wait, yeah.
Oh, he's streaming it. There you go. He's live streaming.
Oh, live streaming.
Wait, check his YouTube channel.
All right, someone go
Yeah,
check
he
the
is.
professor's
Yeah,
YouTube.
he is.
That's pretty good.
Oh, I didn't even know that he was streaming or anything. I just said that because I meant it.
Real players. That's good.
No, you stopped yet.
You
We were waiting for you, Professor.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, don't have to wait.
The professor gets the first slice, you know?
I'm hip. This is for you guys.
They were all gonna jump, but I was like, me and Shahir were like, no, we gotta wait for the professor, you know?
Okay.
They tried to grab some, but I was like, no.
So which one is everything?
Supreme for you.
Why are you trying to
Wow.
cover up each other's
What's in
lines?
Supreme?
Italian sausage, Canadian bacon, mushroom, bean,
Just,
pepperoni, black olive,
Wait, Italian bacon?
and pepperoni.
Oh, I can't have that.
Yeah.
Shahir, why'd you bring that? You know I can't have that.
That's for the professor.
Really?
It's for everyone who can have it, except for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta wait for the
Thank
next.
you.
Okay,
you guys,
line.
next.
Yo, let me just have the.
Yo, do you have a veggie
We don't-
pizza?
I want the pepper.
Whoever eats.
Here, grab me the pepper. You know the green pepper?
Oh yeah, everybody who wants like the sausage pizza or like the
There you go.
Boring.
pepperoni.
Work pizza, pepperoni.
Thanks for me.
Oh, that pepper.
Those things are the bomb. Why'd you have to hide it?
And we have it seems
soda.
Nice.
What is this one? Oh, is that veggie?
Yeah.
Hook me up with a good piece. Oh yeah. Shahir already knows.
I can eat the veg.
Cheers, the last one just cheese?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go for that one.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
For the all cheese one.
No.
It's hard.
What do you want?
Oh my god.
Did you make it?
Nothing.
What do you mean?
I mean,
No, I didn't.
G-N-O-T-H-I and nothing.
What do you want?
You don't want to have any
N-G.
in our party?
What?
This
We
is my
need
party.
music, son.
No, it's.
Professor,
I'm
see,
still
he came
awake.
through. Now, after this, we gotta go to your restaurant. Remember? Yeah.
What do you want?
Veggie.
Roger?
Also, I don't want to
Oh,
eat it
that's
since I
it.
didn't contribute any money to it. So
Yeah,
I don't-
shit, you
I don't want to
broke.
be that guy.
You broke.
Yeah.
You can have some. I already paid for you.
You had a pancreas condition, so you're fine.
Kidney, boy.
What? Oh,
Kidney
sorry.
and pancreas.
Sorry.
Oh, is that your liver?
Professor, Shay had like a kidney infection.
Really?
Yeah.
His kidney. Yes, please.
Shahir, I'm so glad
It's
you
okay,
came
though.
with the pizza.
I
I
still
was
watched-
gonna be so upset if you
I
didn't.
watched all the live streams still, Professor.
Say what do you want, man.
I'll have cheese one, I guess.
Cheese, okay.
Yo. Let me get some of that.
Thank you.
Get some for her too. We already have some.
Yeah.
What do you need?
It's lit.
Don't tell me you're about to get all those garlic free stuff.
Bro, there's like 3 more sauces. You should have claimed one. You can grab one. You want some garlic?
What do
I'll
you
give you
need?
some garlic. Here.
What do you have?
Cheese, veggie, work.
These things are so good.
What else?
The spice of peppers, if there's any left. Grab it. Yeah.
That one, yeah.
I wonder what that is. I don't know.
Thanks, man.
The woman's jacket, what do you mean? Those things.
Oh, you don't want to know.
What do you need?
I know.
No work pizza? No pepperoni?
It's hard.
Why do that? Eat
You want it on that?
Hey, they're hiring, guys.
Oh yeah.
But you have to
The
work for
fighters right
a
here, that's why.
You have to work for a Just remember who your boss is going to be before you go.
Man.
No, know when your boss was, remember Shahir told us about that one guy who was like, Shahir told him how to spread the cheese on the pizza.
Oh yeah, and he said he won't be here. How dare you?
Yeah.
Oh, so here's that story so funny.
No, your boss.
Yeah, don't stop there. He'll fire your ass.
Yeah, he was like,
I'm messing you with you.
And then get you yelled at by like an 80-year-old Pakistani man.
You had one?
Cup.
Cup.
Thank you.
Mostly the cup. So demanding. Cup.
Yeah.
Is everyone
In
done?
that goddamn cup. Yeah, I'm done.
Like all I'm trying to get water.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Water.
Yeah, so like he came through to my place to
You
hang
had
out
one,
with
yeah?
me and Shay here and Shay. And so like I think he got thirsty, right? So he wanted water, you know. So he
Well,
asked
good
me,
for
he's like, give me water. And I was like, I don't mind, but I was just like, he said it in a weird way, and I was like, okay, I was like, give me a second, because I was in the middle of talking or
They
something.
have no cup.
So like, give me a second, like 2 seconds, like 2 minutes.
And you
from
guys
my
sure?
Give me water now. I want water.
Thank you.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and I was like,
But I just
what?
said cup though. I just said
Everyone got one, yeah?
That's
Yo,
even worse.
Can we have a
Or
second?
something?
Where's your slice? Here, what do you want? What do you want?
That's
You want supreme? Pepperoni? No?
Man,
No?
we
Okay.
paid $5 for just
I
one
haven't
slice.
done.
Oh,
What do you want now? How many? No.
Yes, I did.
Oh, so you
No,
paid
no,
$5.
no,
So
no,
you
no.
get 2 plates and stuff. You paid $5.
I was
Yeah.
and then one piece is worth.
Why
would you give the money? You can
What do
buy
you
the
need?
whole
Veggie?
Cheese please.
Share
No veggies, only for me now.
them.
No more veggies.
No more veggies.
No more veggie guys.
Wait, is there any cheese left?
Yeah.
You said
How
garlic
many?
lily? Oh.
Yeah, that's a garlic on it.
You said it was a lily.
Everyone had one, yeah?
What?
Please? You eat.
Veggie. Can I get a
No veggie.
No veggie.
Oh,
he took it
You
all.
want the supreme?
You don't like
No,
those?
I'll just get cheese
I
though.
don't like olives.
What?
I don't like olives.
You don't like olives?
Bro, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
If you
what?
guys like that
Fucked in
pepperoni.
the head, bro.
So it also has sausage.
My girlfriend told me she didn't like olives, and I almost broke up with her.
Supreme. Or whatever that is you have.
Oh. Only this group is getting again.
We're gonna eat the whole.
No more pizza.
No, you have to share with the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Should brought an extra 3.
You eat pepperoni?
I don't want.
I literally eat one whole piece.
No more
Oh, yeah.
pizza.
And I ordered
There's
pizza for
nothing
myself.
anymore. Like back in the day, like you eat 3 or 5, but now it's like eat the whole thing and you're fine.
I remember when I was younger, I would order Papa John's.
I will
3
eat that
slices
one.
where I was like, I'd be done for 2 days of eating.
Did you
Now I
have
eat a whole pizza. I'm like,
Are you sure?
wait, the fuck is that $20? Yo.
It's expensive.
No more.
You gotta tip that, you know.
You eat pepperoni? Lazy ass driver, you know, I do all
So
this.
it's next.
One time I ordered
You can break into a
for
Papa
one
John's.
pizza, it was like $40.
One one?
One
Like
time?
one pizza. Yeah.
What's the deal on it?
Nothing, just
No,
like
no.
chicken and extra sauce and stuffed crust. That
From
was
Papa
it.
John?
From Pizza Hut.
Oh.
Such a child.
One time I ordered a pizza, right? Forgot I ordered the pizza. So when the dude came up to the door and knocked, I
Who eats
thought it was the
pepperoni?
cops.
No one here?
So I started
Don't work
hiding.
here.
So I started
I
hiding.
wouldn't have high.
So,
You eat pepperoni?
so I started hiding.
So you seen the details he's leaving out, like why would you
And
think
so,
that?
no, what are you talking about?
You
So
think
I started,
so
so I started hiding, right? Because I was like very like nervous as to like who it was, because I didn't want it to be the cop. So I thought it was the cop. So I was hiding for a good couple of minutes before I went out there, and the pizza guy was walking back to his car. I was like, oh, yeah.
One more for the professor. So no more pizza. Okay? It's only for me now.
Can I have the box? No, I'm playing.
Can I get the bag though?
No. Thank you.
If you want, you can have it.
The bag?
No, not the bag. the box.
Oh, okay.
Bro, I don't want these more people to eat these things. These things are like gold. Are they?
You eat gold? Is there more?
No, no more.
No, not pizza. That thing. The what's it called? It's not a paper. No, the banana. The banana.
Bananas. This is for me, okay?
I do.
So yeah, I'll make
This
sure
is
nobody
also mine.
touches it, okay?
No one
touches Who wants the
I
drinks
really
now?
wanted to get the bag.
Who wants the drink?
I'll get drinks.
You have a cup?
Oh yeah, put some in that empty one. In
No.
the big bottle. Is it empty?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's not. No.
It's going to fall. It's hard to do it.
I was gonna do it on this, but I haven't finished my one.
Okay, students, let's learn Java.
You can have soda.
Okay.
Thanks.
One time I spilled it in my car.
Man, I still don't have stuff in my car. What do you talking about?
Guys,
Yeah, what's up?
just for warning. I think the kidney infection is contagious.
You need more soda?
I touched it. I touched
Just
it.
letting you know.
That's what she said.
Is that good?
Yeah. No, I'm just
He says people says not good.
I don't
That
Oh.
means we can return, right?
One more for you, okay?
Oh, thank you.
No?
Is it good?
I was
Alright.
hungry, you know, so.
Just wait for this, right?
Yeah.
All I had
Next
to-
class, guys, we're meeting in Manassas.
No.
We had to set a date for that, huh? We gotta make it. Yes, we gotta go there one day.
Next
Yeah.
Tuesday. Next
But
Tuesday.
maybe,
Yeah, let's just do next week.
That's finals week.
let's say,
No, no,
Why-
not even.
why was it
Like
not taking
in
the
December or
final?
something.
Just take the final in his
Yeah,
job.
December.
Yeah, but his finals
the
like
second week
the
of
week after that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
so
these
yeah,
are
what's
my
wrong
finals
with
on
that?
Thursday.
What? No, I'm not talking about next week, dude.
so,
What were we talking about then?
I wrote down.
I'm talking about going to, like, this restaurant, like, after we take the one.
Oh.
I'm gonna put it in this plate.
Traditional day, huh?
Put it in the bag.
I don't think
Who wants more soda? No one?
nobody wants soda. Don't think that would work.
I think I'm the server, huh?
He is a server. Here's your tip, homie.
You're dead. Going.
Professor, is C++ hard?
it's harder than Java.
It's harder. I have to start learning
Is
it.
it?
Yeah, it's harder than
I
Java.
have to start learning it, Professor, for the thing I'm doing.
Why?
That's like
You know the how I talked to you about my hologram thing? I'm still working on that. So I got my sensors the other day, but you need C++ to know C++ for it. So I'm just gonna like go and like learn, pick up stuff. Do you teach that in any of your computer science classes?
I mean, it's good for, yeah, but
Is most artificial intelligence with C++?
I don't teach all of them. I mean, oh, you want to do the AI thing?
Yeah. Because I'm still working on that hologram project. Hopefully I can have some type of prototype in by like the finals day to show you.
Like 1-0 versus
Brother.
You don't understand what you're learning right now? Is that what you said? You talk to me or? All right.
like when you say
What statics, guys? Been waiting for the answer.
yes.
What statics? We talked about that, right?
Things that don't change. I took statics
No?
this semester.
Were you here last class?
Statics.
That's
Oh,
why.
you took statistics.
I took statics. It's an engineering thing.
Great.
Static
Cool,
electricity?
bro.
Static shock.
No, it's like it has to do with like building.
What statics? What statics?
Things that don't change.
Right? Stay the same.
So like
Okay.
like we have like a beam.
So what is don't change?
What's the displacement like at this certain point? It was easy.
What is don't change? So we're gonna talk about statics method, right? So it seems like Che,
Yeah.
you're not
Now my turn.
you're not attending my live stream then.
Oh.
Because you've been attending.
No one
Then
else
you-
answered the question. I answered better than they did.
Alright, so let's talk about statics. Static is what? Something staying the same. Like in this case, what should stay the same? What should stay the same? The method stay the same, or the attributes of the method stay the same, or can be both.
I'm gonna go 50-50 shot here.
So we talk about object. Remember object class. What should make stay the same? Like, okay, we talk about your car. We build a car, right? Last assignment, right? Okay, let's scroll up a little bit. So this is your assignment. Make a car, and make a car with what? Color. Would color of the car stay the same?
Professor, for this code, were we supposed to come up with our own car, or did we have to use that? Because I used that.
Yeah, use this. Yeah. So you can see color is not the same, right? It can be black, it can be pink. Like you can repaint your color, right? So should it be static, this attribute? No. Because it can be changed. It should not. Okay, when it's static, look at this. If I paint Honda black, meaning that it's the same as Volks has to be black too. Like my car, his car, and her car gonna be the same color because they're the same. If you make it statics, that makes sense. So that's why we don't want to make statics. Once you change one color of the car, the rest of the color of the car will be the same. So that's the statics. That makes sense? Like engine size should not be statics, horsepower should not be, make should not be. So what should be a statics? Like if I want to know, I'm in manufacturing of the car, I want to know how many cars that I've been produced. The count should be statics. Make sense? So that means static attributes, right? We were talking about static attribute last class too.
Like
Now-
constants.
Right. The members of the, like the attributes, like the color should not be, but count, like Now we have static method too, right? So we have the attributes. So for the statics attributes, we need the static method. Okay. So let's look at an example. All right, so I have a car. So this is a car class that we just talked about, right? Color, make, model, horsepower, engine size, then non-statics, and then I make a count as statics. So if I make a count as statics, when I create a car through the constructor, I just increment the count just to count. Count is pretty much just count how many cars has been instantiated or created in the main program, right? Like I have Ali car, I have my car, right? We talk about this. Did you see that? That's why we have Ali here. Ali's not here today.
His car is somewhere else.
All right. So when we do get count, so what should we expect to see?
How many cars?
Which is it's gonna be 2, right? Because we created 2, like there. See that? And this is pretty much a static method that's doing that. Like get count. We have get count right here, static method. It's just the method return count what makes static. Now with statics we just call the class name and dot. We don't have to call the object name anymore, right? Any question about statics? We talk about that. Now what is overload method? So you see this constructor? We have one constructor named car, right? So we could have another constructor, correct, name car with a parameter. Like if I want to make parameter color, make model, right? I could have more, but I can have another one to have more. Like I could have another constructor. Okay, this one do also horsepower. Okay, so when you look at this, what do you see? The methods, which is the constructor, the method, right? That has the same name but different. This is called signatures, right? Or parameters. So what do you call this? Overloaded constructors. See that? Or overloaded method, but this is overloaded constructor because they're constructors. And the point of this, pretty much, instead of giving the initial values like this, we actually going to set the color to the color that being passed through the signature. Right. Same as make. So we just want to make sure we refer to this, right? And model, instead of giving the default value, right? So same as this. This is just the. Did I spell horsepower wrong? Right. All right. So when we use, we could call the overloaded constructor with different color, blue, right? Make BMW model C3.
Professor, do you like cars? Are you like a fan of cars? Like, do you like fast cars? Or are you don't really care? Cause like some people are like big fans of cars.
If I have money, I'll buy fast cars. So I don't think I can say like it yet because I don't have.
Well,
I can't
mean,
afford that yet. So I better not like it. Okay.
Mario, he went to your restaurant.
He did?
Yeah.
What? What? When?
Today?
He just
No. Oh no! Now we have to go.
You and everyone, you have to go to the restaurant.
Tell me how to pizza party here instead.
You
Oh,
my
god! Oh, what?
Wow. It's not my fault. It's Tommy. Remember last time we wrote to
Tell him to get on the live stream. No, tell him to get on the live stream.
Alright. So now when we run this, you see that they have the spelling, right? Not fixed.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Poor
Jesus,
guy.
all the way in Manassas.
Poor guy.
be
Oh.
looking. You might be looking for it.
So you can also look at the right hand here. When you click it, jump to the location where the errors are.
Oh, I know. I'm gonna say I went there too. I went there where nobody was there.
I don't know what you mean by the end.
All right, let's run again. So now we see we just create 2 cars, right? And the count is, you see, if the count is non-static, we're not going to see 2. We always going to see 1, right? So since it's static, that's why we see 2.
It's an almond.
Because if non-static, just the value is the same, right? For that attribute. All right. So this is called overloaded constructor. Now, if I want to create overloaded method,
650 horsepower.
no. What does it have?
Bull. I say that's BS.
All right. So
He was asking what cup I want. He was asking.
Whoa, what do you mean?
I mean, you just, you know.
let's look at the overloaded methods, right? So this is overloaded constructors. Now, let's see. I'm looking for like a car. Let's create a method for the car. And this method pretty much, let's say, I'll say, remember method is like an action, right? So a car can run. So we're going to make it run at the miles per hour, mph, right? So we'll call double returns 30. Do we have 30.5 or
It's int.
it's always whole number? Okay. Int, and then we call mph calculate mph then. Okay. Now we're gonna pass in a parameter. So we have to give what? Actually, I should do calculate distance. Maybe that better. Let's do double. Like how many miles? And then pass in mph, right? So we said, okay, one way to calculate the distance is we can provide the miles per hour. It's going to return the distance, right? But now this car happened to be using in out of the US, right? So we know that we don't use mph. What do we use? The metric system meters. So meter can be double, right? So or kilometers, right? kmh, kilometers per hour instead. So then after it's calculated, pretty much it's gonna be what mph times what 60 or so if I do 60, this has to be times, yeah. So it has to pass in the times too, right? So time could be double in minutes, right?
You said hours, though. Miles per hour.
Yeah, but if you talk about 30 minutes, right? But we can, and divide by 60, right? Right. This one, if you see the difference is the parameter is different, but the name is the same. See that? So this is called overloaded. Right, this is called overloaded minutes. So this is kmh. Like you can also calculate by getting like unit in miles or in kilometers, right?
I do that on the right lane.
But you might want to make sure you put comments that it's going to return distance in kmh, in kilometers, right? So that's what you just need to make sure that you create a contract for the developer who used the method, right? Returns distance in miles. Okay? So this is called overloaded methods. Okay, and we see that's make it beneficial. Like we can just pass in any values, right? Like either miles or kilometers. Okay, now an array. So what I want to show you, I want to introduce you to, we want to create methods, right? To find sum, average, and product, right? And factorial of a group of numbers. So if I want to pass in a group of numbers, I need to create an array, right? So what's an array? Array pretty much, instead of defining like a variable at the time, you technically can define let me create a new project. You can define a group of them at a time. Let me show you. So we're going to create the. I think we already. Let me just pull one of the project. I call calculator. Okay. So let me just run this program first. I show you. So this is pretty much your 6.2. I want to explain at the same time with 6.1, which you do today, both. Okay. So pay attention then. So let's look at what we try to do is we try to find sum, right? So if I put 5.2, 3.4, 3.1, it's going to find the sum, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty much just a simple calculator here, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Alright, so that's what we try to find, right? And then you might want to have like button to call average. Then you get an average, right? A button for
What are you drinking?
product, you get product. And button for factorial, you get factorial. Okay? Now let's look at how do we create this first. We're not going to show you an array yet, okay? A group of number. This one just 2, okay? So we're going to talk about that at the same time. But I want you to focus on basic graphic user interface, right? So this is using JavaFX, okay? So let's look at the code first. So we already know that to use JavaFX, you have to extend application. And then we need to have the start, right? And then we need to have main, string args, launch args, right? So that's just pretty much this basic structure of JavaFX applications. Now let's look at, if I want to add text field, these are called text field, and this is button. I just declare text field. So you have 2 text fields, right? And just need to import it from JavaFX scene.control, right? That text field. So this is like a class, just like I make a car class, I import to use, but this one is from the library already. I just import them here and instantiate them here. Make sense? So I instantiate 2 text fields and I have 1 label. Label technically just that part that display the values. Right. So once I start, I just initialize to 0.0. Right. So that's why we see when we start a program. Right. So I just get rid of so many spaces right there. Okay. And then I have the button called calculate, which at this point I'm going to make it called sum, right? Okay. Like I said, if I want to add another button called product, right? It's going to do multiply, right? I could make another button called, what else that we have? Okay, factorial. What else? Average, right? So that's how you make the button. And you just import. Now I just need to give the name of the button to be the same, to be different, right? So technically just say button sum, right? Button product. Button factorial, and then button average, right? All right, so now we have all the buttons. So in the start, pretty much where you start to put a button onto the. So first, this whole window call stage, like this is stage, right? We call primary stage. And the background gray area here, we call scene. Okay? Scene. The scene. Just like you go to the theater, you go to a show. We see the stage and scene, right? So scene can change, right? Stage pretty much just you can open stage, close the stage, right? Now, scene itself is depending on a layout. Layout means, like now, I create a flow layout. We call flow pane. Another way they call pane, right? Pane is like a panel, or like you have the scene, you put the layout or the plane on the scene. You see that? I create a scene and I put a flow pane. That's the layout on it. I create a flow pane, right? And I put a scene, set scene to the stage, which is the primary stage, and I make it to show. That makes sense? Now, the reason we want the layout or the flow pane here, because I want to be able to organize my text field, label, and buttons. Right now, I make it as a default flow pane. It's just like, it's not like default, it's like make simple, simplified by using flow, meaning that if I add label first, label will go first. You see, I add to the flow pane, right? And then I add label, text field 1, text field 2, and the button. So it's going to be in order. Like if I add button sum go first, and then button average go second, and then button product, and then it's just like a flow. Like if you switch the sequence that you add, it's going to be a different sequence. And then when I click the button, I just need to make it be able to click by do the method set on action. So when I do set on action, when I click, it's going to take, if you read the code, it's going to take the value from text field, right? 1 and text field 2, right? Change the values to, like the text field by default is going to be a text. You cannot sum the text. So I have to convert by using parse, right? Parse double, change it to double values, then I can sum them and put into the variable's name result, right? That means when I click, this whole thing is just simulating the click action inside the, this is called method set on action. Inside you just do, this is called lambda, event E, like E with the arrow sign here, minus and greater than, we call lambda sign, okay? To tell that the action when I click the button is going to read 2 values and sum them and put in result. After that, I just going to set the label with the result. But the label, since it's double, I want it to show only 2 decimal places. So that's why I just do create a decimal format and call format, right? And pass result in. So it's going to return the format that I want to show 2 decimal places with 4 digits. Like pending, you see the gaps right there, right? So let's see. So that's how pretty much how it works, right? This is a pretty much old program. Let's run a new one after we change. Start to see all the buttons, right? That we just create. So now we didn't make a fancy look yet, right? So the fancy look is depending on the flow pane here, right? So this is just to show the patterns. Like if I give the numbers, it should appending spaces in front. That's just the format of the number that you wanted to display. Like there, appending 0 in front. Right. So if I don't want it to append, then I just use the pulse, right? Or hashtags, right? To represent the numbers, they call pulse, right? All right, so that's pretty much it, right? So let me show you how to add an action to button average. Again, I call button average dot set on action. Now the reason I want to do this because now average doesn't do anything, right? When I click, it has to add this action and do the E, right? You can see when you type E, you can just use that one, the event, right? It's sometimes shorted for E. It's the same thing. Okay. And lambda with, then you put the curly braces pretty much all the action that you wanted to happen. Now, I'm going to combine this to our 6.1, right? So 6.1 talk about the method, remember? I technically can create, remember we learned how to create two different classes, right? One has the main, one is just like car class that you have all the methods that you can use, right? So pretty much I could create a class that's called like mathematics. Like in Java, they have math class. That's why I just make mathematics. And I could create a method like to find an average, right? Then I don't have to worry about getting average, right? I just create a group of number in array that I can pass it in. And this is going to find average and returns back. So it's going to return the double back. And I just call average or find average. And a group of number, group of double. Now, when you do a group, you just do the brackets for a group, right? The square bracket. Group of numbers. And it's going to return pretty much the average, right? Now you just need to declare average. Initialize, declare that variable's name avg and initialize it. Now you may see that you could create an overloaded function here, because it doesn't have to be always double. It could be a group of integers. That's the benefit of overloaded. Make sense? And now you start to implement how you calculate it here, right? So how do you find average? Now go back to our loop exercises, right? You want to loop throughout the list, sum them and divide by how many numbers, right? So for int. Now we have learned the basic int I equal to 0, I less than the size of array, right? I plus plus, right? So for an array, you can have for each. Okay. Now if you see this in a test, you should not be surprised, right? So for each double x of array name numbers. So that means for each values in array. This is called for each. Okay. Like for each numbers in array, I call it as x, which is a type of double, right? And what do? I need to sum it, right? So you need to find a sum, because that's how the average works, right? So we say average avg. Let's declare sum, because we will need sum to use. So let's create sum. So sum plus equals to x. So it's going to go through all the elements in the array and sum them up. And then the average pretty much is what? Sum divided by, let me not confusing you by, just leave avg. But after you sum it, you're going to say sum divided by the size, right? The length of the arrays, right? So that's how you find the average, correct? And technically, we can do the same for the integer. Right, so this is called overloaded. We're going to support. This could be for each integer, values of numbers, we sum. Okay. All right, so now we did find average, and this is called arrays. I show you how to use array, right? Group of numbers, right? Just use bracket. So we come back to set on action. What do? We technically don't have to write this code anymore in there, but we could just use it here. So what we need is just create an array, right? And call that find average and set back to text, right? So an array pretty much take values from those 2 text fields. If we have 10 text fields, it will take care too, right? Because we have an array now. Group of numbers. I mean, normally if you have just 2 text fields, you don't really need array. You can just pass 2 values, right? You can make another one overloaded and pass 2 values, right? But you could use array too, because more than one is an array, is a group, right? So when we do that, we support more than 2 values already, which is good. Now, how do you read in the values? This is how you read in, right? Correct? So you technically want to assign, create an array first. An array of double. That's how you create an array. A group of double numbers. And give the name double, like numbers, group of numbers. Now you need to set the values for each number. So how do we set the values? You could make it with the curly braces and give the values like that and pass in the values and separate them by comma. Right, so this is a first number. We read from get text. And second number. Numbers equals to the first number. Let's see. So normally, if you give the values like that, you can do like here. I just try to check. Oh, we forget to call. When you create an array, one thing is you have to give the words equals new numbers like that. And you have to keep the size of an array. Like if I have 2 numbers, equals to, it's not numbers, it has to be doubles. New double, because those are double values, right? This size as 2, like that, right? And now you could start to give the values. Numbers equals to Normally you can give the value right away, but let's see. Let me try. I want to try something x. Normally you should be able to get the values like that. Yeah. So for double, you should be able to get the value, give the value right away like that. So let me try again. Instead of call numbers, I call x. Alright, so now try again with the... Remember when we go to text field, we get the text, right? But we want it to be double. How do we get double? Just call the parse double and surrounding with the string, which is get text. That's the first number, right? And then the same thing with the second number. Parse double and text field to dot get text, second number. Alright, so now we have the list of numbers we put in x. So we're gonna pass into where? Mathematics dot mathematics find average. Now you cannot do the method find average because what? They're non-statics. If they're non-static, you have to create an object. And should this be non-static or statics method?
Static?
Should be statics, because it's not like the color of the car, right? That can be different. Find average is always going to be the same, right? So that's why there's no reason to make it non-statics. When it's statics, then you can just use it right here. See that? And you pass the group of array, which is number in, right? That's going to return. This guy's going to return the average values, right? In that case, after it's returned, what you want to do, you just want to set the text, right, to these values. Now this value is in double, so you can't just put double to the string, right? So you could do format, right? Like that's why we want to format the answer to have 2 decimal places, and we pretty much just return a string format for you. Alright, so that button should work to find average for you. Okay? And we created methods. So let's test. So we're gonna find an average of 2 numbers. So what should be average of 5.5 and 2.5? 4.0, right? There you go. You can find the sum. 8 average is 4, right? Now you could do the product the same way. Product should be very simple, because you can just copy the code for the sum, right, and change it to a product button, and instead of adding, you just do asterisk to multiply, and that's done for the product. Right, so if it's that simple, then you don't need the method to help. So that's the product of 2 numbers, average and sum. So last one, factorial. So factorial, pretty much you can just create a method named factorial to help, right? Because the code is more complicated, you separate the concern now. See that? you can just handle all the methods 5 factorial first, and then just how do you find a factorial? So make statics. It's gonna be in factorial. So technically we just need to loop, right? So we need to take in one number, int number. Right, factorial 5 one number at a time, right? So let's return fact. So we just need to declare in fact. Initialize to 1 because multiplication, right? Identity. So how do you find factorial? You just need to loop, right? From int I equals to the number, right? And then as long as the number is greater than, because we go to 0, right? Then you gotta do decremented numbers, because factorial is just like if it 5 times 4, right? Times 3 times 2 times 1, then you just do times equals to I, right? It just keep multiply itself, right? Until it's get to 1 times 1. Right, it's going to be 5 first time, and then times 1 is 5, and then we decrement times 4, right? And returns fact. Times 3 times 2 times 1. And then when it turns 0, we no longer do that. So that's pretty much how you find factorial. Now come back to how do we use it. So we just need to create a button called what? We already have button created, which is called, we just need to implement the event listener, right, for factorial, which is set on action and do the same event. So when event, that means when you click what you want to do. So it's technically going to give you 2 numbers. So we're going to find a fact of 2 numbers, right? So then the same, we need an array first, right? So now we read into numbers into array, right? Now we're going to find one number at a time. So how do we find that? We just have mathematics dot find factorial here. And you pass in the first values. Now, array, when you get to first value, you have to provide an index. We have the 2 numbers. The first value is going to be at index 0. Then it's going to return. Now the problem is this is a double. We can't find factorial of double. We have to make it int. Correct? Then we can do this double. What we can do, if we still want to support double, we have to make sure that we're going to cast this to int and get a whole number only, right? So that's going to return the factorial of the first one, which has a result. We're going to make a string result to concatenating it. So first string is empty, and then once we get the result, we concatenating it and put the new line to it. I'll put a tab or whatever to separate them, right? Because we have 2 different tab factorial values now. And then we do the same with the second one. After that, we pretty much just set the label to the result. And then we're done. So let's run the program and see what we got. So if I want to find the factorial of 5 and 4,
Damn.
Wait, what did it do? Did it add both the factorials?
Yeah. No, I think
Or did the factorial 54?
multi.
so what's factorial of 5?
It added the
Huh?
factorials of 5 and 4?
No, I feel like you multiply and then it's just
Factorial 5.
Okay, so is that the...
4 is 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is
24 is 4.
Wait,
4
Professor,
factorial is like
24.
Professor, is that the factorial?
And
of
5 is
5 factorial.
120,
Oh,
right?
meant the factorial.
So it should be 120 and 24. So now we have to check
factorial times 4.
if our factorial function is correct.
Professor,
Let's just do first number first and see what we get.
Professor.
Yeah.
So before, that was the factorial of 5 times the factorial of 4.
Let's just test with factorial of 4.
Dude, the mini truck is faster than
4.
the semi truck.
So it seems like this is not correct, right?
Yeah.
Guess what?
So let's see the logic again.
They're semi-truck. They're semi-truck.
It's like 5.5.
So 120 to 40.
So, I mean, for 4, it should be...
You should multiply
think
by
it's 5.
number instead of 5.
No, but imagine though, it's like you can.
I mean, I drank it all.
Where's the factorial?
Unless you refilled it without me seeing it.
Oh, 1 second.
Huh?
So
5
it's just wrong with the logic.
facts times.
Equals number.
Yeah, there's something
Yeah.
wrong.
So I start with, let's say 3. So it should be
3 and then it will
3 times 1, which is 3, right? Then it's going to be 2, right? 3 times 2 is 6. It's going to be what?
3 factorial is good.
And then it's going to reduce to 1. It looks fine here, right? So let's test just this one first if it's working. Now, how to test this, you can actually do, like instead of writing the main to test, you could, right, like driver, you could do,
Would it be under run?
test, you see that? Navigate test, create new test. See that? That's another way to test. And then these are the method. If you want to test them all, you can check them all. And we want to use UJ unit 4. I hit OK. It's just a package for testing. So it's going to add just like JDK. This is JDK 1.8. It's just add JDK4 for you. Now you could test factorial in here just like the way you do right main. Same thing. So we could do mathematics, right? Dot factorial. Just want to test if it's working. It should return 24, right? Just print line. See that? All right, and you just right click and run the test. So it's going to be just like the same way, green. So it's wrong then. It's returned 256. So this logic is wrong. Why is it wrong? So you could start to do the debugging. See? And I could just make debug to run that again. So now 4 come in. Number is 4, right? When I click bug, it's going to step by step. Now you see the value instead of running so fast. Then you can start to do a step into, like that. So it's show fact is 1, which is correct. I is 4, right? Step into again.
gaming computers.
Number is 4 again?
This phone's for like gamers.
That is the problem, right?
Huh?
I never reduce, right?
They got some
Yeah,
buttons.
I would wondering. Crash without a Java is fine.
These
Yeah.
speakers have
Yes.
these individual drivers of their own. They're loud.
I have to do I minus minus. That's the problem with my code.
Oh.
Right now we do I plus plus. That would work now. You see that when you do debugging, you understand the problem. Alright, we come back. We run this application. We could do both now.
I guess it's just playing for like 1 second.
Alright, let's run the application again.
She's the kind of person who opens up new email accounts.
Let me close this out.
Oh, I do. Do you have
The problem is it stopped at the debugging point. Let me release it.
Am I connecting?
No, I'm showing system. Oh, this is not showing.
Run calculator.
Let's race.
Because 4 and 3 then. And hit factorial.
What?
If you go to the just go to
Andress has been bamboozled.
Hmm.
Alright, check this out. 120 frames per second.
Let me run this again.
Look at the yo, Shay. Shay. Look at them. It's so smooth.
It's still under the debug mode. Let me stop them.
Yeah.
I could if I want. But the only problem with this one is horrible camera. Camera's
Yeah.
horrible. Like it's worse than like average phones that came out 3 years ago.
Hmm.
I mean, it's the first time coming up with a phone.
Alright, so
Oh, you cut it? This
it seemed like it still performs something that stopping this program. So let me try to see if I can comment this part out and just run
4,000. I mean, most phones right now has 3,300. This one's
4, 5.
pretty much the whole thing.
Okay, so that works. So something in this part that caused the slowdown of the system. So let me just do one at a time first. Int x0, right? Double. Maybe a casting, but let's see. Yeah, that's something causing the problem right here. It could be the problem with this guy. I greater than 0. It's called it's to loop forever. The logic is wrong here, right? Alright, so that should fix all the problem because that causes loop forever.
I'm giving that something
No screen tear.
Alright, 4, 2. There you go. So it works now. So let's give the factorial result of 2 numbers.
Which one is that? 7?
Alright. I think that should be it. And so this class exercise for today, you're gonna have to do both 6.1 and 6.2 together. Okay? Alright, so I'll see you guys next time with 6.3.